Celeste's POV. Thank you all for coming to our wedding anniversary, but as of tonight, my marriage to Celeste is over. Those were the first words my husband, Damien, uttered the moment he stepped into the room. I looked at him, feeling like I had never known him before. Then came the second blow. I am divorcing her. There was dead silence. No, my mind screamed. This is not real. It can't be. My heart pounded violently against my ribs as I forced my lips to part. But no words came out. Today was supposed to be a celebration of our love. How could Damien do this to me? Just minutes ago I stood before the mirror, smoothing down the shimmering fabric of my gown in the holding room. I was filled with a foolish hope. Perhaps tonight, my husband would finally learn to appreciate me, to care for me. After all, we've been together for 2 years. I had planned every detail of the evening, ensuring that this wedding anniversary banquet would be nothing short of perfection. But the one person who should have been by my side, my husband, was nowhere to be found. I sighed, staring at my own reflection. He doesn't love me. He never did. Sadly, to him, our marriage was no more than an obligation. And every day of our married life, he made me feel it. That he'd just been forced into this union and I was nothing to him. I shook the thoughts away just as the door opened. Celeste Vaughn, my favorite friend in the world. Genevieve Hale stepped inside, her perfume wafting through the air. She was draped in a classy designer gown, every inch of her exuding wealth and refinement. Such a stark contrast to the way we had grown up, 2 orphan girls trapped in poverty then, clinging to dreams of a better future. You look lovely, she said with a smile. I couldn't help but notice, though, that there was something detached about the compliment, as if it cost her to say it. You too, I responded in a friendly manner, pretending not to recognize her bothered and unhappy. I heard about your parents, I said cautiously. You found them? She nodded stiffly. Yes. Her expression tightened, and seemed to refuse to express more about reuniting with the family. That's weird. However, my phone vibrated on the vanity table before I could question her further. I reached for it and my heart skipped a beat when I saw the sender's name, Auntie Eleanor. The director of the orphanage. My fingers trembled as I unlocked the screen and read the message. Celeste, I have news about your parents. Come by when you have time. For a moment, everything else faded away. My heart soared with hope. I see you're still in touch with those people. A sharp, condescending tone made me look up. It was my mother-in-law, Isadora Vaughn, looking over my shoulder with disdain. I didn't even notice her sneaking up behind me. Isadora exhaled sharply. Even after marrying into this family, you insist on clinging to the filth of your past. You little useless orphan, she muttered with disgust. I held back my tears, not daring to argue. The door suddenly creaked open, making me turn toward the sound. It was Damien. Damien, you're here, I whispered with relief. He stood at the front of the room, looking every bit the powerful CEO that he was, the man I had adored, married, and spent years trying to please. But I've never seen him like this. His eyes were colder and darker than ever. And his face? It was rigid, emotionless. It made me shudder. Before I could say anything else, he suddenly turned and walked away. Wait, Damien. I reached out instinctively. But he ignored me, going into the party with seeming purpose, his quick strides carrying him past the excited guests. I followed behind him, wondering what was going on. Something's terribly, terribly wrong. Damien reached the center of the room, where a beautifully designed stage had been set. He took the microphone from the announcer and turned to face the gathered crowd. My heartbeat thundered in my ears as he began to speak. What is he doing? Thank you all for coming to our wedding anniversary, but as of tonight, my marriage to Celeste is over. I am divorcing her. Whispers and gasps erupted like wildfire. Guests exchanged stunned glances. Some looked at me in shock, but most of their faces reflected abhorrence. My body went numb. I stared at him, frozen in place, unable to comprehend what I had just heard. This is not happening. Then his eyes flashed furiously toward me. And when he spoke again, every word struck me hard. I won't allow a shameless slut to be my wife, he said in a quiet, lethal tone. The world stopped. I was speechlessly in shock. What is he talking about? Is this some kind of sick joke? Immediately, chaos broke out. Whispers and horrified stares enveloped me. No. I shook my head, my lips trembling. I wanted to defend myself, but I couldn't even begin to understand any of it yet. Just then, a flicker of light caught my eye. The massive LED screen behind me had lit up and a video had started playing. I turned around and watched, along with everyone else. The footage was grainy, obviously secretly filmed. But I could clearly make out a man and a woman, their naked bodies pressed together in a fevered embrace. His hands gripped her bare waist, pulling her closer as she arched against him. Their movements blazing with heat and desire. The moans echoed in the hall that everyone could hear clearly. Their faces were blurred, but that didn't really matter. Because the woman had a birthmark. One identical to mine, right there on her chest. That woman in the video. It's you, isn't it? Now what do you have to say for yourself? Damien's voice was cold. A shuddering gasp tore through me as reality caved in. No. No, this is wrong. It's not me. I tried to protest, stutteringly, but the damning evidence kept on playing, filling the room with every obscene sound. The words from the woman who was enjoying the flickings descended me into hell. Damien Vaughn? He has no clue. The woman in the video gasped between breathless moans. I played him like a fool, took what I wanted, drained his company for millions, and he still fell for it. A low, sultry laugh followed, dripping with satisfaction. No, it was fake. I would never treat Damien like this. Just then, without warning, I heard a woman shout, "I told you she was filth." Slap. I felt it before I saw her. The slap landed hard, and a sharp sting burned across my cheek, my head snapping to the side from the sheer force of the blow. My skin flamed, and I suddenly felt my ears ringing. Then through the haze of pain, I saw Isadora, her eyes filled with disgust as she lowered her hand. I clutched my cheek. That's not me. I swear it's not. I don't know how, my voice was breaking. That's clearly you, Damien said, his cold voice making my heart jump. He stepped closer, not to defend me from his mother, but to tear me down even further. I released your video. Will your secret lover come to save you? He demanded angrily. Where is he, huh? Who is he? He moved forward menacingly, making me stumble backwards. His fury had erupted without restraint, and I was afraid he might hurt me. Damien, there's really no one, I tried to explain despite my sudden fear of him in that instance. Then to my surprise, a sharp, choked sob pierced the air at once. Celeste. Genevieve's voice quivered as tears pooled in her eyes. I knew you still love him and dated him secretly. Sorry, I can't cover it anymore. You shouldn't betray Damien. My breath hitched. What? Before I could react, Genevieve turned to the crowd, her face twisted in anguish. She used Damien's love against the man. She gained his trust, then transferred company assets to her lover. A fresh wave of gasps rippled through the crowd. I stood there, frozen. The very person I had grown up with, the one I had trusted most, was the one shoving the knife deeper into my back. You're lying. My voice was raw with disbelief. Why are you doing this? I grabbed Genevieve's wrist, desperate to stop her, to make her look me in the eyes and tell me why she was slandering me, betraying me like this, but the moment my fingers touched her, she lurched backward, crashing into the towering display of champagne glasses. Crash. Shatter. Glass shattered around us, crystal shards raining to the floor as the tower collapsed in a cascade of destruction. Gasps turned to screams. It was in complete chaos. I felt a sharp pain searing my palm. Genevieve pressed something cold and jagged into my hand. My fingers instinctively curled around. Glass. Ow! Genevieve's deafening scream echoed against the walls. She cut me, she wailed, grasping her leg as blood seeped through the fabric of her gown. She did it on purpose. Help! Call the police, someone shouted. My heart dropped. A pounding noise filled my ears. Then panic rapidly wrapped around me, blending with the excruciating pain of betrayal. And suddenly, the sound of footsteps came. It was Damien, coming forward and towering above me. He looked calm on the surface, but his words were another story. "You will pay for this," he told me through gritted teeth. Tears blurred my vision as I stood there in great shock, unable to reply, unable to move. Celeste's Povey woke up with a throbbing headache. And as soon as my eyes popped open, I jolted upright. Wait a minute, this isn't my home. Looking around, I noticed that the room was spacious enough, but plain and simple. With everything a creepy white, "Where am I?" I winced in pain as I tried to move my hands. Both were bandaged. Suddenly, the pain awakened all my memories. Isadora. Genevieve. Damien. My mother-in-law slapped me. My best friend had betrayed me. My husband hadn't even bothered to look for the truth before labeling me a slut in front of the whole world. I held back the tears in my eyes and began to look around. My gaze fell on a brochure on the bedside table. It said, "Welcome to Ravencrest Asylum." It was. An asylum? A mental institution? My eyes widened. Why am I here? Suddenly, the door swung open and I turned sharply toward it. Damien walked in, his presence commanding as ever, though his expression remained cold and detached. Behind him, Genevieve followed in a wheelchair, partially covered in a soft shawl. Her delicate frame made her look like the perfect victim. A myriad of emotions hit me hard. But I stared hard at her, waiting for an explanation. Hoping just a bit that this was some kind of mistake. Her lips trembled, and as soon as her gaze met mine, she let out a quiet sob. "I'm so sorry, Celeste," she whispered, her voice shaking. "You shouldn't have done those things." I couldn't hold back the truth anymore, the words slammed into me. I barely had time to process the shock before Damien tossed a folder onto the table. It slid across the surface, stopping inches from my fingers. I hesitated before picking it up with trembling hands. Patient, Celeste Vaughn. Diagnosis, mental instability. Hallucinations. Violent tendencies. What is this? My voice came out hoarse and unsteady. Damien's stare didn't falter. Your medical report. My fingers clenched around the papers. This is not true. Isn't it? His voice was ice. You attacked Genevieve. You caused a scene at the banquet. You lashed out in front of hundreds of people. None of that was my fault. I took a step closer, feeling desperate. The video was fake. The injury, she framed me. How can you not see that? Damien didn't even blink. You know what I see? He paused, seething. A woman who's willing to protect her secret lover at any cost. I let out a shaky breath, trying to hold myself together. Damien, I don't have any damn secret lover. There's no one else. I cried out. You know how important you are to me. I gave you my life. Enough with the lies. He exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair like he was forcing himself to stay calm. But I'm not lying. Suddenly, Genevieve let out a soft whimper. Celeste, please, just admit it. You betrayed Damien. You hurt me. Haven't you done enough? Admit what? I snapped. Why would you say that? You're supposed to be my best friend. I'm your friend, but I've covered for you long enough, Celeste. This is for your own good. Genevieve stood tall, playing the role of a righteous savior, pretending she was delivering justice. You, liar! I yelled, my anger ignited. I lunged for her, but Damien was quick to step in between us, grabbing my wrists. Stop this, Celeste. You're unstable and dangerous. He jerked me so hard that I lost my balance, and I suddenly felt my body falling backwards. I hit the floor hard, the impact knocking the breath from my lungs. Pain shot through my back, but it was nothing compared to the searing agony in my heart. I blinked up at Damien through my tears. For just a second, his gaze shifted with something that surprised me. Concern? Regret? But then, Genevieve sobbed again. Damien's shoulders squared, his face hardening once more. Genevieve even tried to cover for you when I saw the video, he muttered coldly. His gaze connected with mine, and I could see his eyes filling with sheer fury. Celeste. I can't believe you could be so cruel. The words stabbed right through me. Tears spilled over, but still I forced myself to sit up, my hands pressing against the cold floor. Damien. I pleaded. Please. Don't do this to me. Don't touch me, he spat out. Being with you disgusts me. The breath left my lungs. A sharp, empty ache spread through my chest, crushing what was left of my dignity. The man I had spent years loving was looking at me with even more wrath and revulsion than before. I swallowed hard, shaking my head. You're wrong. You should be thanking Genevieve, Damien cut me off. If it weren't for her kindness, you'd be in prison right now. My mouth dropped open, and my blood ran cold. I couldn't believe my ears. You have to stay here and reflect on everything you've done, Celeste, Damien said, his voice dripping with cold loathing. Is he crazy? No damn way. I can't stay here. Auntie was still waiting for me with news about my biological parents. I was so close, finally so close to finding the truth. No. I tried to stand, though my legs trembled beneath me. I need to leave. You can't keep me here. But Damien stood his ground, blocking the exit. Then to my surprise, Genevieve touched his hand and spoke. Damien. Let me talk to her alone. Damien frowned, looking terribly worried. But it wasn't for me. It was for her. He's thinking I might attack her again. He's worried I might end up hurting his innocent Genevieve. It was a sick joke, indeed. Damien had never once looked at me that way. Never once been afraid to leave me vulnerable. But now, he was treating her like something fragile. My scream got stuck in my throat. Fine, Damien eventually said. I'll be right outside. His eyes moved toward me one last time before he turned and strode out of the room. As soon as the door clicked shut, Genevieve dropped the act. The softness in her expression vanished, replaced with something sharp and cruel. Perhaps even victorious, she let out a low, satisfied laugh. My, Celeste, she purred, tilting her head. Look at you now. How does it feel to lose everything? I gritted my teeth. You piece of, don't bother, she cut me off, rolling her eyes. I don't have time for your drama. No one's going to believe you, anyway. Rage boiled inside me, but I forced myself to stay still. Why? My voice shook, but not from fear. From fury. Why are you doing this to me? Genevieve smirked. You still don't get it, do you? She sighed dramatically. You still see yourself as a billionaire's wife? Don't be delusional. Now you're just a famous high society whore. Her words twisted my heart, crushing something inside of me. You know, I did everything I could to get close to Damien, she began to say with bitterness and anger. I became his secretary. I worked harder than anyone. And yet, he still ended up marrying you. Her smile faded, eyes flashing with hatred. A useless, pathetic little orphan girl with no potential. And you're not even that pretty. I inhaled sharply, resisting the urge to shake her awake. Genevieve leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. But don't worry, she murmured. Everything has finally gone back to where it should be. She tilted her head, smiling. Like she had already won. Without thinking, I jumped at her with rage. You, vile, scheming liar. You've been playing me all this time, planning to betray me all along. But she just laughed. Temper, she cooed, completely unfazed. You might want to control that. It's exactly why Damien thinks you're insane. A sharp inhale stuttered past my lips. And that was when she leaned in, her lips barely moving. Enough of this, Celeste. Just stay here and be a good girl, all right? You have no right, she didn't let me finish. Stay here or I'll have the orphanage shut down. It's just one call away. My eyes widened. The air left my lungs. No. Not the orphanage, Genevieve sighed, inspecting her nails. Auntie and those poor, helpless children. What would they do if they suddenly had nowhere to go? If they ended up on the streets, starving, straying? She tilted her head, smirking again. You wouldn't want to be responsible for that, would you? The walls of the asylum seemed to close in around me. My heartbeat pounded in my skull. And in that moment, I realized the hard, painful truth. I was trapped, left with no choice. And she fucking knew it. Celeste's povey struggled to suppress the scream in my throat, silently praying for someone to come and help me. That was all I could do. It was not just me I had to think about. Those kids in the orphanage, and Auntie, who'd always been like a mother to me. If I fought back, Genevieve would make good on her threats. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to breathe through the panic clawing at my chest. I couldn't let them suffer because of me. Luckily, no one entered my room again until sleep finally claimed me. Soon, morning came. The door suddenly creaked open, making me sit up in bed as a nurse walked in. She was definitely not the kind who greeted others with warmth. Her uniform was crisp, but her face was hard and expressionless. The dead eyes stared at me, void of empathy. Time for your medicine. I immediately recoiled. I don't need it. I'm not sick, my voice hoarse, but the nurse didn't blink. She simply walked forward, grabbed my jaw in a bruising grip, and forced my mouth open. Wait, stop. My words were muffled as she shoved the pills inside. I gagged, instinctively jerking back, but she was ready for that. Her fingers clamped around my throat, pressing just hard enough to stop me from spitting the pills out. Her movements were so practiced, as if she had done this hundreds of times. My lungs tightened. My stomach lurched. I couldn't breathe, my vision swam as the bitter taste spread across my tongue. I gasped when she finally let go, my body heaving for air. I wanted to make a run for it, to get out the door and escape this nightmare. But she was blocking the way. One look at her, and I knew that she could overpower me with ease. Be obedient, she warned. Then she leaned in, her breath warm against my ear. Your husband said you're mentally unstable. Crazy. A real danger to yourself and to other people. My body trembled, still reeling from the pain in my lungs. But it couldn't compare with the blow that came from my husband. That's why you're here, she mocked. And he made it clear, we're not to let you go easily. Every word sank in, squeezing my heart tightly. I can't believe Damien's really doing this to me. He's the cruel one. Tears burned in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I sucked in a slow and shaky breath, swallowing the fury rising in my chest. He's willing to destroy me to avenge Genevieve, to save his family's reputation, to protect his company. But I didn't even do anything. The routine was the same every day. Wake up. Take the pills. Stay quiet. A suffocating haze settled over me after each dose. My thoughts slowed and my limbs felt heavy. I drifted through the hours in a daze, unable to focus, unable to fight. Days passed in a mindless fog. But one day, a hunched old man came to my room and spoke to me. It was the janitor, sent in to mop the floor when I spilled my drink. They're poisoning you, he murmured under his breath, not looking up. That medicine, it's got hallucinogens. I snapped to attention, my sluggish brain trying to grasp his words. What? Are you sure? They give patients heavy doses to keep them quiet, he said, still mopping. Makes them easier to control. I felt dread rising within me. He left, though, before I could ask any questions, locking me inside again. I peered through the foggy window of my door, banging and demanding to be let out. To my surprise, I saw a group of patients shuffling aimlessly down the hall, their eyes vacant and their expressions hollow. Like living corpses. I felt sick. This is illegal. They can't do this to us. Damien had imprisoned me here to become a lifeless shell. How could he? I felt the hatred coiling inside me, growing stronger with each passing moment. I needed to stay alert. I had to stay me. But how? The nurse never took her eyes off me. I couldn't fake taking the pills. I looked around in panic. Eventually, my eyes landed on the broken porcelain cup that the janitor had cleaned up. The one I'd accidentally dropped earlier. I moved swiftly, my fingers closing around a piece. The sharp edge bit into my skin, but I didn't let go. The pain will keep me from succumbing to nothingness. I did it again and again in the following days. Every cut, every sting, was a reminder. I'm not going to turn into a hollow shell like the others. More importantly, the pain always reminded me that Damien, my own husband, did this. With each passing day in this hellhole, my hatred for him only grew darker, deeper. It was unstoppable. I looked down at my hands, now they were covered in scars. No one could believe that I used to be a brilliant designer, a girl with ambition and dreams of my own. But I'd given it all up, just for Damien. Instead, I was trampled on. Treated like garbage. I sighed, leaning against the cold wall. Pain is still better than numbness. Pain reminded me that I was still here fighting. I'll be okay, I tried to assure myself. I still have Auntie Eleanor. She'll find a way to get me out of here. A rustling sound broke the silence. Are you okay? My eyes flew open. I turned sharply toward the small window. The old janitor was back. His grizzled face was lined with concern. I steadied my voice. I'm fine. That was a lie. I'm just worried about Auntie. She must be trying to help me. The janitor frowned. Where are your parents? I don't have any. I've been an orphan since I was little. I wanted to talk about anything. It kept my mind from sinking into the fog. But I have a birthmark, I continued. Auntie's been using it to help me find my parents. She said there's news about them. I exhaled, forcing down the lump in my throat. So far, that birthmark had brought me nothing but misery, and yet, it was the only proof of who I really was. Just then, a sudden burst of static filled the hallway, making me snap my head up. The TV in the hallway was on. I tiptoed, straining to see the screen. Eventually, the flickering images became clearer. Breaking news. The breath left my lungs as I watched and listened. I would recognize that building any time, even though now, it was being consumed by flames. Smoke billowed all around as the news anchor's voice droned on. The fire at Rosehill Orphanage has yet to be contained. Several children remain trapped inside as emergency responders work to control the flames. Director Eleanor Whitmore was found unconscious at the scene and has been hospitalized in critical condition. Authorities suspect arson, though the cause of the fire is still under investigation. I stopped breathing. For a moment, everything around me ceased to exist. Then my heart began to shatter. No, I whispered in fear. This can't be true. I slammed my hands against the door again, even louder and harder this time. Please. Help. The nurses barged in, their expressions twisted with irritation. Shut up, one of them snapped. You want us to sedate you, another hissed. I dropped to my knees, clutching at their uniforms. Please, let me out, I begged, my voice cracking. My auntie, she's in the hospital. The children, you can't leave without your family's consent. But please, I need to, I began to say, but they stepped back and pushed me to the floor. Desperation twisted inside me like a wild animal. My eyes flicked to the nurse's pocket. Something was flashing inside. I could make out the shape of her cell phone. I forced myself to nod, lowering my head in feigned submission. I'm sorry, I murmured. I won't cause trouble anymore. The nurses exchanged a look, then scoffed. Humph. There you go. Learn to behave. The moment they turned their backs and began to walk out of the room, I struck at once, targeting the nearest nurse. My fingers snatched the phone from her pocket before they could react. Then, I shut the door immediately to lock them out and quickly dialed Damien's number with shaking hands, ignoring the nurses roaring outside. Point 1 ring. 2. The nurses were trying to get in. I stared at Damien's number with my pounding heart. On the third ring, the call connected, just as the nurses stormed back in. I stumbled backward, grabbing the small table and shoving it between us like a shield. Hello, Damien? I gasped loudly. It halted the nurses in their tracks, their hands mid-reach for the phone. They froze, clearly not expecting Damien to answer. It's me. I need to get out now. I have to. Hello? The voice on the other end wasn't Damien's. But I knew it all too well. Shit. Genevieve. Oh, Celeste, she said in a smooth, sugary voice. Damien's asleep beside me. He was so tired. Just leave a message if you need something. Something inside me instantly broke. What were they doing together, in bed? Why was he tired? No, no, no. Is this why they'd trapped me in here? But I had no time to dwell on this now. Genevieve, I forced out, trying to steady my hand as I gripped the phone harder. I need to speak to Damien. It's urgent. Are you still hoping Damien will save you? Genevieve's tone dripped with annoyance. What the hell? Did she not know the breaking news, or did she just not care about the orphanage at all? Either way, I had no patience left. Put him on the phone. I screamed, rage exploding in my chest. My only instinct is to cling to the phone like a lifeline. Then I heard Genevieve scoff through the line. He doesn't care about you, Celeste. Just accept the truth. Her words crushed me heavily. Tears blurred my vision, a mix of anger and desperation swelling inside me. Genevieve was preventing me from talking to Damien. What could I do? But just as I was about to lose hope, I heard someone else on the phone. A deep, groggy voice. Who's this? It's Damien. He must have grabbed the phone from her, but his tone seemed annoyed. Damien. I said in desperation. It's me, Celeste. Please, I have to go. The orphanage is on fire and Auntie is. Celeste, this strategy won't work on me, he interrupted. Then, he gave out a long and disappointed sigh. Don't you have any other tricks? I swallowed hard, trying to ignore the hurtful words. Damien, please, I'm telling the truth. Just turn on the news now and you'll see. Genevieve said you might resort to something like this. His tone was laced with irritation, like I was nothing more than a persistent nuisance. Seems like she was right. My heart was torn apart. But I didn't have time to focus on my wounds. No, Damien, listen to me. I swear, everything I said is true. Let me go see Auntie. Let me at least find out if she's enough. His voice was sharp and final. Why do you always trust everyone except your own wife? I yelled. Anger and disappointment surged through me, building until I erupted like a volcano. Silence stretched between us as I tried to calm myself. I held my breath, clinging to the fragile hope that I'd finally reached him. But then, his next words ripped through me like a dagger. Because you're not worth it. The air left my lungs. You won't leave that place until you atone for your sins. Then the line went dead. The dial tone rang loud in my ears as tears ran down my cheeks. Damien had just severed the last thread holding me together. A harsh laugh sounded from above me. The nurses stood there, smirking. This was a complete turnaround from how nervous they had been just now. Did you really think he'd save you? One of them walked toward me. When he brought you here, it was clear he didn't care about you. Otherwise, where do you think all this torment has been coming from? Talk about overestimating yourself, another sneered. Their words were undoubtedly a heavy blow to me. Sure enough, without Damien's consent, how could they dare to treat me like this? I clenched my fists, my entire body trembling with humiliation and frustration. A fierce urge flashed through me, to hurl the phone straight at their smug faces, but I couldn't. I needed help, and this phone, it was my only chance to get it. One of the nurses snorted loudly and reached for the phone. To her bewilderment, I refused to hand it over, pressing it against my stomach. Give it to me, she snapped. Her patience was clearly thinning. I shook my head, refusing to move. The nurse was greatly annoyed now by my futile movements. She pulled out her electric baton and tapped it against her palm. You're really making this difficult, aren't you? The sound of tapping was frightening. My body trembled, but I still refused because my fingers were already moving. Dialing a number I hadn't called in years. From the corner of my eye, I saw the baton being directed toward me. But I couldn't dodge it. POW. I gasped in pain, feeling warmth spread down my mouth. I spit out blood. But I didn't let the phone go. Please answer, I silently pleaded as the ringing echoed in my ear. You're my only hope now. If there was anyone capable of going against Damien, it was him. Only him. But the nurse growled, pulling me harder. Come on, answer. I commanded in my head. You're the only one who can save me, just like you'd promised in the past. And in that instance, the ringing stopped. A deep, familiar voice came through. Who's this? He asked, his comforting voice filling me with relief. Theo. Thank God. Celeste's POV. Help. The cry barely left my lips before one of the nurses ripped the phone from my grasp. Pain exploded through my arm as she crushed her heel into my open wound. A strangled scream tore from my throat. Hello? Celeste, is that you? What's happening? Theo's voice came through, sharp with concern, but they didn't let me respond. Little bitch, you're done for, she hissed before cutting the call and shoving the phone into her pocket. No. I shouted, ignoring the intense pain coming from my arm. Theo had heard me, right? He must know I'm in trouble. Lock her up. Before I could react, the nurse's rough hands yanked me up, binding my wrists tightly. She was eager to get back at me for tricking them. She bound me too tightly. The rope dug into my skin, biting like a promise of more suffering to come. Please, no, my plea was ignored. I was dragged down the dim corridor, my bare feet scraping against the cold floor. Laughter rang in my ears. A door swung open, and I was shoved inside. It was dark, cramped and musty. Fortunately, I managed to turn on a light switch before falling back on the ground. This is a utility room, I thought, despair rising within me. How long do they intend to keep me here? But despite my current situation, my thoughts rushed back to the orphanage. Had they put out the fire? How many were hurt? Auntie Eleanor, I whispered. I'm sorry, guilt consumed me. Now I couldn't even help them. I was trapped here. Powerless. My only hope was the last person I'd called. Theo, don't fail me, please, I silently begged. He once swore he'd always be there for me, that he'd never turn me away. I could only pray he meant it. **************** Damien's POV. The phone call had ruined my mood completely. Yesterday, I had gone out drinking with a client, expecting nothing more than business and an easy escape from my thoughts. But I'd lost control. In the end, I'd nearly drowned myself in alcohol, just to avoid thinking about that damn woman. My goddamn wife, Celeste. You know what? Forget about her, a familiar female voice purred beside me. Let's just enjoy ourselves today. It was Genevieve. What happened yesterday? Why was she beside me? Genevieve stirred, blinking up at me with tired eyes before stretching like a cat. You don't know how drunk you were. I brought you back from the bar. You were completely out of it. Then smiling faintly, she added, remember when I brought you back drunk from a party before too, when I was still your secretary? Gosh, you were even trying to kiss me. Not really, no, I interrupted. That was a long time ago. I honestly had no interest in reminiscing about such memories. Well, whatever. But it meant a lot to me. My eyes narrowed a bit. But before I could change the subject, she beat me to it. That phone call, she muttered. I thought Celeste would take time to reflect on everything there, but clearly she still refuses to acknowledge her mistakes. I'm truly sorry, Damien. If only I'd never introduced her to you back then, she sighed, her fingers lightly tracing the edge of the blanket as if weighing her next words. To be honest, she murmured, I feel really bad, Damien. I mean, I grew up with her and she's always been my closest friend at the orphanage. A crease formed on her forehead. I care about her, really. But what she did to you was just... I couldn't take keeping it a secret any longer, you know? I let out a low breath. Yeah, I should have known. She's always been good at pretending. If I hadn't found the video on your computer, I would still be deceived by her. I muttered. Genevieve shifted, watching me carefully. The fire she was talking about, it wasn't even the orphanage we grew up in. I stilled. What? She nodded. It's a completely different place. She lied, Damien. Again. I found my chest constricting as the truth bit me. Of course. Of course she'd lied about it. On the surface, Celeste seemed so innocent. But perhaps she had always been manipulating, calculating. And now that her schemes had finally backfired, she was desperate to claw her way out, I scoffed. I should have known better than to waste a second thinking about her. Genevieve gave me a sympathetic smile before tilting her head. So, what do you plan to do about her? She leaned forward slightly as she spoke, the movement causing her silk dress to slip just enough to reveal the curve of her cleavage. I turned away instantly. I have no reason to care what happens to her anymore. I glanced toward my desk, where Celeste's fake medical diagnosis certificate rested inside a locked drawer, the one that Genevieve had produced and shown to the mental institution where we'd taken Celeste. I owed Genevieve for that. If not for her quick thinking and her connection with that private facility, Celeste would now be rotting in a prison cell for intentional injury. In spite of what she'd done to me, I didn't want that for her. Although our marriage had begun as an obligation, I couldn't ignore her smile and the way she cared for me. Just as I found myself on the verge of falling for her, that damn video surfaced, followed by Genevieve's confession. A cruel, perfect timing. And the divorce. Genevieve's hesitant voice snapped me out of my thoughts. I exhaled sharply. The priority right now is finding the bastard she slept with. I had no desire to discuss the divorce, even if I had been the one to propose it. Because the truth was, the thought of it hurt more than I was willing to admit. I'm still investigating the man, I muttered, dragging a hand down my face. Genevieve, who had been lazily twirling a strand of hair around her finger, stiffened slightly. That's bad news. But I think maybe it doesn't matter. The betrayal does. I narrowed my eyes, wondering why she seemed nervous when I mentioned the investigation. However, before I could say anything, my phone buzzed. Theo Mercer? What the hell does he want? He'd been a thorn in my side since the moment I stepped into the business world, a billionaire in his own right. Theo wasn't just a rival. He was a powerhouse. Ruthless and just as influential as me, he built his empire from the ground up, securing his place among the most powerful figures in the industry. Every major deal, every high-stakes contract, I had to fight him for it. What do you want? I demanded. I'm calling about Celeste. What the hell's going on? What have you done to her? Theo's voice was filled with anger. I was immediately pissed off. How dare he call me out of nowhere and demand answers about how I treated my wife? He had no idea what had happened. No right to question me, and what did it matter to him, anyway? What are you talking about? I replied with the same angry tone. I didn't do anything. She's in danger. When his roar rushed into my ears, I felt my heart skip a beat for a few seconds. I shouldn't care about Celeste anymore. But why do I feel an overwhelming pain in my heart?